break. And, of course, gun violence is still alive and well, and whether it's soaring homicide rates in Chicago and Baltimore or additional tragic incidents such as Dayton and El Paso, it doesn't matter. Regardless of the city or state or circumstances, we have to get this stuff under control. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You are standing on the corner of Calhoun and Baker Street in Baltimore or shopping at the Walmart in Texas. No one should have to fear becoming the victim of random violence. That's just unacceptable. And as we were saying before we went to the break, it's now time for the adults to get in the room and start working on some strategies, because people are dying. People are dying. People are getting killed in Walmart. People are getting killed at school. People are getting killed at church. People are getting killed in various places, the movie theaters, for ridiculous things, just ridiculous. And, you know, we all want to talk about the Second Amendment, and let's talk about that. You know, the things that I've been hearing, at least in the last couple of months, of a lot of the legislators and pundits on both sides on all five sides of the issue have been talking about, okay, this is what I think needs to happen. But a lot of them have been talking about, let's enhance the background process. And so I haven't heard anyone saying, we want to take your guns away. They're saying that, at least the way I'm interpreting this, and feel free to call and challenge me on it if you disagree. But what I'm hearing is people saying, you know what, let's get to the point where we know that people who have firearms in their possession have the mental capacity to make good decisions. I think that's a reasonable thing. We're not saying that you can't have it. We're not saying don't buy it. They're just saying that if we're going to allow you to have something that can take a life, then we need to be confident that, number one, you haven't been engaged in domestic violence and all that kind of stuff. I think we can all agree with that. And that you haven't exhibited other behavior that gives us pause to think that you may not make a good decision when you get upset, or some other thing ticks you off, that you're just going to go grab your gun and take care of business. That's the whole premise behind that. It's not that you can't have a gun. It's not we're coming to take your guns. It's not that you can't buy a gun. That's the total opposite. It's just saying that the folks that have guns, we have to know that they have the capacity to handle that particular weapon in the appropriate manner. And so I think everyone would agree with that. So I'm going to bring a caller in, and let's get the caller's opinion. Caller, you on the air?
I'm here, Chief.
All right. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And who do we have on the line?
This is Ryan, and I'm calling from El Paso.
Ryan, how are you doing, and how is El Paso?
Well, El Paso is still reeling from the events of last week, but we are resilient. We are, we are a very peaceful community here. For a city of 750,000, we average 18 murders a year. That's
Wow.
1-8.
Wow.
And we live next door to a city, Ciudad Juarez, Chihuahua, Mexico, of 1.5 billion. And we maintain that 18 average through a very bloody war between rival drug cartels, where people maybe less than 30 minutes from my door were being, beheaded, hands cut off, feet cut off, More than 2,000 people were murdered in Juarez. It was the most dangerous city on earth, and yet here on this side of the border, it's among the top 5 safest cities in the country for cities of 750,000 and smaller.
Wow.
But you were talking about background checks earlier. I
Yes,
think
sir.
It needs to, because I'm of the belief that you won't find too much in terms of a criminal record, but you need to look into their medical history and their online presence.
Sure.
If you build a database of usernames and you follow and you track what these people are saying and who's following them. So if these people so much as get pulled over for a speeding ticket and they look like they might fit the description, you run them through that database and you take it from there.
Sure.
So, but in terms of purchasing firearms, I mean, these firearms are purchased at gun shows where there's very little regulation. They're sold on eBay. They're private sales, and I don't know how you regulate that. But the background checks should go beyond just the criminal background check. We should talk medical. Do you have any history of mental illness? And are you saying crazy things in cyberspace that would inspire others to commit these types of acts? But we're holding together here, Chief, and like I said, we're going to be just fine.
Wow.
Okay. Wow. I'm glad to hear that you all are, standing tall. But this is just too much. I mean, this is just too much. You look and you just try to figure out what it is, what the problem is, and then people want to battle you on the politics and get all involved in things that really don't have, that aren't about saving lives or valuing life, valuing human life.
Right.
And so we're just glad to hear that you're doing well. We hope that El Paso and the folks at El Paso continue to heal and continue to have.
Maybe we finally reached the tipping point. I thought we hit it when we hit, when Sandy Hook went down or Las Vegas. I thought that was. I said, okay, this is it. This is the event that's going to cause this thing to turn around, and it didn't. So maybe we've reached the tipping point.
We'll see. I hope so. Because it's just there's this underlying feeling of gloom and sadness mixed with anger at what's going on and the kind of things that are happening. I mean, you just walk around feeling funky and you're like, what is going on? I've got two daughters that are one's in college, and you think about that, and then you've got the other. At this point, as Chief and MBZ were talking about before the break, you can't go anywhere. You can't go to school. You can't go to the mall. Without worrying about that. You can't go to church. Without worrying about what's going on or what's going to happen or if you're going to come back home. And it's just it's crazy, and at the top to not have someone be presidential, in a moment when the country needs it. No matter what whether you're riding a donkey or an elephant, human lives matter, and it makes a big difference. It was always some time when a president would when the country was reeling and people were uncertain and people felt bad. You can go down the line, and there was always a president, even if it was a president you didn't vote for, you always tuned in to hear them say something that would pull us together. That would make us know that someone is paying attention, that we're going to get, not only we're going to get through this, but we're going to be better on the other side of it. And you don't have any of that kind of healing talk. And I just don't think the guy at the top has any.
No, that's true.
He doesn't have that muscle.
We're dealing with the. Yes.
If I could also ask one question, what was the reaction among your neighbors, the people that you talked to today, from the visit to El Paso today?
Most people were indifferent. They didn't really have a lot to say. I think the people that I spoke to understood that he was here in the office of president as the quote-unquote controller in chief. And I guess some people were afraid that it would turn into another one of his rallies, but it didn't happen. He went to a hospital. He met with the victims. He also met with first responders, and then he was gone. But there was no speech. There was no rally. I mean, it was a very quiet visit. He just kind of came in and left. But most of the people that I talked to, they didn't really have. Some of them didn't have a problem with it, but others thought that he, he's the guy that incited all of this. If you're a serial rapist, you don't show up at a rape crisis center and console the victims.
Right.
So it's been an interesting day, to say the least.
So he's in and out. So what's next? What's happening? What's happening now, or what's lined up? I guess as you go on, from day to day, what are they doing? Is anything else going on in El Paso?
I think people are just going about their lives. I mean, people are out and about. They're not changing their patterns or what they do from day to day. I get up every day and I go to work.
Right.
And try to think about it. I mean, it's kind of like what life was like on September 12th, 2001. I mean, we still got to get up and go to work. So that's what we do.
But you all hang in there, right?
Wow.
I will.
Well,
I will.
Let me ask one other question. Ryan, when this initially happened, and I mean, once the initial shock wore off, and I'm going somewhere with this, what did you think about immediately after you started hearing, particularly when the body count started adding up and all these other things? Did you automatically think that this might be related to some of the rhetoric? Did you think this was some local nut job? What did you think?
I thought about what happened at the Garlic Festival in California. I thought about Charlottesville, and I said, this is the pattern. I didn't think it was anybody black or brown. Okay, I wasn't thinking Islamic fundamentalists, not in El Paso. I had a hunch that this was the work of a lone wolf, radicalized, white nationalist extremist, and it's if I'm president, I'm throwing the full weight of the Department of Justice, Department of Homeland Security, Department of Defense, and the intelligence community to go after these domestic terrorists, just like we've gone after domestic terrorists that happen to be black, or terrorists that happen to be black or brown in remote parts of the world. And you round them up, you put them, you send them to Gitmo, you detain them indefinitely, you interrogate them in black sites all over the world. I mean, just the same heavy-handed treatment that you treated the black and the brown, you need to do the same for the white, because extremism in all of its forms is deadly. And you should take the same approach that we've taken since September 11th.
Wow. And did you get the sense that the community felt reassured after the visit?
I don't think so.
Why?
Our for example, the Congresswoman Veronica Escobar, who represents El Paso, she did not attend, and she said emphatically that she would not. So I don't think anything was accomplished by his visit. Just basically, his visit fanned the flames. And so, how dare you? Your rhetoric led to this, and here you are, trying to act presidential. I don't think so.
And
I don't think he has a clue.
I don't either. I'm and I think like most of us, well, let me reverse for just a second. I'm going to get on my platform for a minute. But, the other underlying issue that I'm seeing is that there seems to be a desire to corner the market on patriotism. And, that's part of the whole reason for sitting down with the adults to talk about this, so that perhaps you can share that everybody has patriotism running through their veins. I mean, if you look at, for example, every time some